the scientific progress we're going to see. I'm a big believer that like real sustainable improvements in quality of life come from scientific and technological progress, and I think we're going to have a lot more of that.
So Sam Altman, the unofficial high priest of the AI cult, just randomly admitted that, yeah, this might all be a bubble. Let's see what this actually means for your portfolio. What happens when the guy raising trillions to build AI data centers casually compares his own industry to the dot-com crash that wiped out 80% of the NASDAQ? And why are companies burning through hundreds of billions on AI infrastructure while 95% of them are seeing exactly zero return on investment? Today, we're breaking down why the AI bubble isn't speculation anymore. It's a mathematical certainty that will separate those who cash out in time from those who ride it all the way down.
Higher speed GPT-4 access, longer context windows, a lot more. Today, we've got about 2 million developers building on our API for a wide variety of use cases, doing amazing stuff.
Section 1. The admission everyone missed. Sam Altman told reporters, "When bubbles happen, smart people get overexcited about a kernel of truth." That's basically the billionaire way of saying everyone's lost their minds, but like in a thoughtful way. He even compared it to the dot-com bubble, that fun time when the NASDAQ lost almost 80% of its value because it turned out most internet companies were just PowerPoints with mascots. But here's what mainstream tech media completely missed. When the guy at the center of the AI hype cycle starts making bubble comparisons, that's not him being cautious or humble. That's him laying groundwork for the inevitable crash so he can say, "I told you so," when valuations collapse. Altman's raised billions and is already talking about spending trillions on data centers, which is a totally normal thing to say if you're planning to buy a small moon. The US stock market has almost doubled in 5 years, mostly because 10 giant companies promised AI would change literally everything. Let me repeat that because it's crucial. The entire market rally since 2020 is concentrated in about 10 companies making promises about AI, capabilities that don't exist yet and may never exist at the scale they're claiming. However, here's where it gets interesting for anyone trying to understand what's actually happening. Most of the headlines you see about the AI boom aren't about how much value AI has created. They're just about how much the price of a few companies' stocks have gone up, which is kind of like judging the quality of a restaurant by how expensive their forks are. Section 2. The valuation illusion. Here's the catch. When a company's market value jumps by hundreds of billions, it doesn't mean that much money magically appeared. It just means the last person to buy the stock paid more than the person before them. It's like if a single banana sells for $10. That doesn't mean all the bananas on Earth are suddenly worth $10. It just means one very confused person is about to have an expensive smoothie. So if we actually want to know whether this is a bubble, we need to stop looking at stock charts and start counting what's real. The money, the chips, the electricity, the people. Because if you burn through trillions and all you get is a slightly faster email writer, that's not a revolution. That's just really expensive spell check with a PR team. Think about what that means for investors currently holding these AI stocks at inflated valuations. Nvidia's market cap exceeds $3 trillion, making it worth more than the entire GDP of most countries. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, all trading at valuations that assume AI will generate returns that dwarf anything these companies have ever achieved. The math only works if AI transforms literally everything immediately. Compare this to the dot-com bubble. Companies were valued on eyeballs and clicks rather than revenue or profits. Today, AI companies are valued on potential future capabilities that exist mainly in demos and press releases. The parallel is almost perfect, except this time the numbers are bigger and the hype cycle compressed into a shorter time frame. The point I'm making is this: when valuations disconnect from fundamentals, when stock prices rise based on promises rather than profits, when everyone believes this time is different, that's not a new paradigm. That's a bubble, and bubbles always pop. The only question is when. Section 3. the trillion-dollar spending spree. Let's talk about what this bubble is actually made of. Because it's not hopes and dreams, it's metal and electricity, and mostly invoices. Just 4 companies, Amazon, Meta, Google, and Microsoft, spent about $344 billion on AI infrastructure in 2024 alone. That's more than 1% of the entire GDP of the United States, which is wild considering most of us can't even get autocorrect to spell our own names right. And that's just the public numbers. OpenAI, the company at the center of all this, isn't public, so we don't get to see their books. But they raised $40 billion, then lined up another $6 billion secondary share sale, and Altman casually mentioned he expects to spend trillions on data centers in the not very distant future. China's state-owned companies have reportedly spent another $500 billion on their own AI build-out. Do the math. Based on global chip sales from Nvidia and AMD, we're already past the $1 trillion mark just on hardware alone, before even counting energy, staff, or infrastructure. That's $1 trillion invested in technology that, according to MIT research, is delivering zero ROI for 95% of companies using it. Think about those numbers for a second. $1 trillion. That's enough money to solve world hunger multiple times over. That's more than the annual GDP of most countries. And it's being spent on infrastructure to run AI models that can't stay stable for more than a few months before the next version breaks everything. Section 4. The energy crisis nobody's discussing. Here's what tech executives won't tell you directly. We're running out of electricity. Right now, data centers already eat about 1.5% of the world's total electricity. And according to the International Energy Agency, that number could double by 2030 if AI growth keeps going like this. Which is a fun way of saying we might run out of electricity because your chatbot needed to write a limerick about avocados. Goldman Sachs analysts say new large-scale power capacity in key US markets won't come online until 2028. And data center vacancy rates are already below 3%. So the AI boom is slamming into a literal wall. There's nowhere left to plug it all in. Companies are spending hundreds of billions on AI chips they can't power and data centers they can't fill with electricity. Section 5. The ROI that doesn't exist. Let me explain something that most people completely misunderstand about AI adoption. A new Massachusetts Institute of Technology report called the Gen AI Divide found that 95% of companies using generative AI got zero return on investment. Not a bit disappointing. Zero. The tools look impressive in demos, but the moment you drop them into real workflows, they fall apart like IKEA furniture in a hurricane. The few companies that actually see results aren't trying to automate their whole business. They just pick one boring but valuable task, like back-office paperwork, and quietly make it faster. Everyone else is out here building half-baked co-pilots for everything and wondering why nothing works. And it's not just bad planning. The tech itself keeps wobbling. MIT researchers found that large language models do fine on short tasks, but completely fall apart on long ones. Even coding, supposedly AI's best use case, ends up spitting out more bugs and security holes. So teams are literally hiring AI code janitors, which is hilarious because that was supposed to be the job that AI was taking. Then there's the stability problem. These platforms change so fast, they keep breaking their own ecosystem. When OpenAI pushed out GPT-4, it quietly broke support for custom GPTs and wrecked tons of developers' tools overnight. Imagine if Python just deleted half its standard library one morning. That's what people are trying to build on right now. So not only is AI failing to produce returns, half the time it can't even stay upright long enough to try. Companies are spending billions on technology that doesn't work reliably, breaks constantly, and delivers zero measurable value. But they keep spending because stopping would mean admitting they wasted all that money. Section 6. The psychology that fuels bubbles. Here's what separates bubbles from rational markets. If the tech isn't ready, why are companies still throwing billions at it? Simple. No one wants to be the one who missed the future. Every big company watched their competitors slap AI-powered on something and suddenly get a stock bump. So they all panicked and did the same. Budgets were rewritten, teams were rebranded, and CEOs started saying AI strategy in every sentence just to keep investors calm. It's less about results and more about not looking like the one dinosaur at the robot party. And this isn't new. The same thing happened during the dot-com bubble. Companies were adding .com to their names and instantly doubling their valuation. So now you've got this weird mix of FOMO and ego, pushing everyone to keep spending, even as the returns flatline. Which is basically how every bubble works. It's not logic holding it up, it's pride. Section 7. The venture capital mechanics. In places like Silicon Valley, investors don't actually need working products to pour in money. Just a good story. And right now, we're building the future with AI is basically the cheat code for fundraising. Coastal VCs are calling this the biggest private tech bubble ever, which is impressive considering these are the same people who once funded a $400 million juicer. Private markets also let the bubble grow faster because there's no daily stock price to expose how shaky things are. A company can raise billions, burn through it, and as long as the next round comes in at a higher valuation, everyone pretends it's going great. The marks to market happens when companies try to go public or get acquired, and suddenly reality intrudes on the fantasy valuations. Meanwhile, most of the stock market's AI optimism is concentrated in about 10 mega-cap firms like Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta. They've tied up so much capital in AI that even Goldman Sachs expects spending to slow soon. And when it does, the hype driving their stock prices probably goes with it. Think about the cascade effects when this unwinds. Nvidia's stock price is built on the assumption that demand for AI chips will grow exponentially forever. Microsoft's valuation assumes OpenAI will revolutionize computing. Meta's spending billions on AI infrastructure betting it will transform social media. If any of these assumptions prove wrong, trillions in market cap evaporate. Section 8. What survives after the pop? My hypothesis is this. Bubbles don't wipe out everything. Most of it pops, sure, but a few pieces survive and become the foundation for the next wave. After the dot-com bubble, thousands of startups vanished, but Google, Amazon, and eBay crawled out of the rubble and built the internet we use today. The same thing will happen here. Most of the flashy AI startups will disappear, and the survivors will be the boring ones quietly building chips, data centers, and power grids. The technology won't die. It'll just get quieter and more useful. The hype will deflate, valuations will crash, and we'll figure out what AI is actually good for, rather than what venture capitalists claim it will do. But that assumes you position yourself correctly before the crash. If you're heavily invested in AI stocks at current valuations, you're betting that this time really is different, that the laws of economics have been suspended, and that companies burning cash with no ROI will somehow become profitable before running out of money. The smart move is recognizing that bubbles always pop, usually when everyone believes they won't. The companies with real sustainable advantages will survive the shakeout. The ones built on hype and promises will vanish. Your job as an investor is figuring out which is which before the market does it for you. So yeah, the AI bubble will pop. The only question is whether you see it coming and position accordingly, or whether you're still holding when the music stops and everyone realizes there aren't enough chairs. Sam Altman just admitted the AI boom might be a bubble, while companies have burned through over $1 trillion on infrastructure delivering zero ROI for 95% of users, all while slamming into energy constraints that won't be solved until 2028. The question is, will you recognize this as the biggest tech bubble since .com and take profits while valuations are still inflated? Or will you be among the investors who hold AI stocks all the way down believing this time is different? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want analysis that cuts through tech hype before everyone else figures out it's a bubble, hit subscribe. See you in the next one.